Good afternoon. You are joining us live from the historic Bugatti circuit here in Le Mans. I'm Amy Reynolds and joining me, Simon Crafar. A great race for us to reflect back on in Jerez before we turn our attention to the Le Mans race coming up here this weekend. But some breaking news that's taken us all by surprise on the build-up to this weekend. Confirmed by Suzuki today that they are in discussions with Dorna to end their participation in the championship come the end of 2022. Simon, your reaction to that? Like I just said, it's taken us all by surprise. It's going to affect a lot of people, a lot of team personnel, and of course, end a project that started in 2015, world champions in 2020 with Joan Mir.
It really did take everyone by surprise because not even the team and riders and mechanics had any idea it was coming from what I've heard from them. Then the first thing I feel is sad because you could imagine, like has happened in the past, a manufacturer pulling out that the results aren't coming, and I imagine the paperwork guys, accountants, are looking at that's what it costs to do that. But Suzuki have won the World Championship 2020 and have a great machine, a great team and great riders, and to walk away from that, you know, they are title contenders, you know. It's super sad, that's what I'd like to say. Also because you're losing a whole team's worth, you know, two riders team worth of jobs in the paddock, you know, and that's not good. There's a lot of families. Then rider market, it's really shaken things up as well, because if you think, you know, traditionally when Valentino was here, Valentino would choose where he's riding and everyone else was waiting and teams waiting, big, everything had happened after. When you free up two riders of the level of Joan Mir and Alex Rins, everyone behind those guys or equal to behind those guys has got to start feeling a little bit nervous, you know, meaning you can't ask for too much because those boys are available, or, oh dear, they're faster than me, you know, yeah. My job is in danger. So it's really shaking things up. And one more thing to touch on about the team, they're a clever, awesome group of guys, and they've helped Suzuki develop their bike. A lot was done by the team at the track, working with the factory development-wise, and those clever boys right now don't have a job for next year. So.
Well, we thought pretty much that Alex Rins and Joan Mir staying with Suzuki in 2022 was near enough a done deal. Let's find out now what both of those riders had to say in their first reactions to the news.
Yeah, for sure was hard days. The previous ones, they told us in Jerez after the test Monday. And when Livio and Sahara-san told us, was super, like, we were in a shock because nobody was waiting this. We were all the guys, all the mechanics in the box. Was a super emotive moment, no? But let's see. I mean, let's see what the future awaits. Now the thing is that we need to finish this season in the best way possible, doing what we were doing before. Going race by race, giving our 100% in every race, and enjoying the Suzuki, because we will not ride anymore the Suzuki, for example, here in Le Mans. So let's try to enjoy.
Have conversations already started with potential teams about your future, and do you see options for you for next year already?
In the moment, no. In the moment, my manager just arrived and he's starting to talk with some teams. But I prefer to stay at the margin, you know. I prefer to stay behind because, you know, this year is still important for us. So, I mean, for sure is there the pressure to find something, but right now it's more important to focus on this season.
Well, it's a situation that nobody wants to hear about, you know, because we've been working for a long time in this project. A lot of people, a lot more time than me. And you know, we gave everything for this for this brand, and then finally we have to part ways and for the next season, no. So it's difficult, not for me, also for the team. I think a lot of them, because it's difficult to put now all these people inside different teams, or I don't know what will be the solution, but you know, it's not an easy one. As a rider, the only thing that I can do is to finish the season at the best way for my team, no, because they don't deserve this. We don't deserve this, so we just have to finish the season in the best way, to say goodbye in the best way possible.
From your point of view, have conversations already started for next year, and do you still feel confident that there is a good option on the table for you for next year?
Yes, well, for this I'm calm. I think that well, my manager will make will do a good job in this way, and soon I think that we will have news about it. I don't know when and everything, but for sure, from now on, or from Jerez on, I was officially on the market. So it's not the situation that we expected, but you know, will be like this. So let's see what we can do.
Well, Simon, nodding your head there in agreement with Joan Mir in terms of how he reacts to this news and how he approaches the rest of the season. We've obviously spoken about the reaction from other riders in the riders' market that might now feel vulnerable. But if you're Joan Mir and Alex Rins?
Well, I was nodding because he said about this season, well, both of them said about the season's important. The best way to get a job as a rider is to perform, you know, do so well that the other teams all want you, and I think that is their job. Just show how good they are, these especially next races. But the old saying is, you're only as good as your last race. You know, that's kind of what this world is like, and decisions will be made over the next weeks. So you're only as good as your last race. Get out there and do it.
Will Dorna have reconfirmed interest from other manufacturers and independent teams in taking those grid spots next year? More news on that when we have it, of course, but let's now take the opportunity to reflect back on the race in Jerez, won by Francesco Bagnaia, his first of the season. He pretty much had said in the race before that, I'm back, underlined it with that win. He's got some margin to chase back in terms of the championship standings, 33 points adrift from Fabio Quartararo. And if we actually look back at this part of the season last year, this is actually the stretch from here to Styria where he actually went without a podium. He cannot afford to do that this year.
No, and I think because he does have that confidence back, it's something feeling-wise, I'm guessing front, and because it is back, I don't think he's going to have that rough stretch, you know, without a podium. I think that there's some circuits coming up that are really going to suit, you know, the Ducati and him, and it's going to be very hard for Fabio, you know, places like Mugello, Aragon's coming up, you know, ones that bike has so much more speed that Fabio's not going to be able to stop Pecco, like, passing and, dare I say it, but pulling away, you know, so he's a real danger until he got the feeling back. I mentioned that Ducati have the best machine and 8 riders. Is there someone that can win the title, you know? Wasn't so popular me saying that, but Pecco on form like he was, and with that confidence, 33 points over the amount of races we've got, no, he's well within grasp.
Taking all of that into consideration, I think is actually one of Fabio Quartararo's best, strategy is not the right word, but one of his best skills. He knows where he can win races, and he knows the races where he is best to just focus, not make any mistakes, and take the maximum amount of points he possibly can. And that's exactly what he did in Jerez. Yeah,
no, he did a great job of that, managing it, you know, managing the danger, which is a rider's job and a very fine line to walk. Fabio, I think he did a magic race. The thing is, I don't think either of those riders knew, meaning Pecco or Fabio, knew who was going to win.
Really?
No, I really don't. I think Pecco did the start, so it made it very hard, because it is hard to pass at Jerez, and made it very hard for Fabio. But I think until probably 5-6 laps to go, when I would say 3-4 laps to go, when the gap was still big, that's the first moment I thought, well, Fabio's going to find it tough now, you know. And I think some people called it boring. I don't agree. It was a real mental fight, and those guys rode awesome and right on the edge, like I was saying, managing it. And the two of them, I think, walked away with more respect for each other, because it was so hard to beat each other, you know?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, the kind of type of battle that I think people are referring to, that maybe they wanted out of that race,
sure,
we're going to get it coming up. There's going to be tracks coming up where they are literally going at it wheel to wheel.
Yep, track layout.
Well, one of them might be here this weekend in Le Mans, because Fabio Quartararo obviously comes in as the reigning world champion and leader of the championship standings. A lot of pressure on his shoulders, but one that I'm sure he's going to manage so well.
Yes. I think in the dry, the problem is, I don't know if Yamaha, I doubt it, if Yamaha have fixed the problem in the rain, and we're expecting rain, so he could have a great qualifying, great position on the grid. But if all the conditions change, that's scary. You know what I mean? Have Yamaha sorted that rear grip in the wet problem out that we've seen at everywhere except in Indonesia, where the grip level is really high. So I worry about that for Fabio here. It's meant to rain on Sunday.
Oh my gosh, we are going to touch more on the forecast and the potential to see another flag-to-flag race here a little bit later on, but I do want to round out our Jerez conversation. Aprilia, Aleix Espargaro, back-to-back podiums. They lost their concessions, not that I think they were too phased by that at all. But yet again, start of the race, Aleix lost positions that he had to recover. What happened there?
All I can say, well, he's explained what happened there. They're having some trouble with the clutch being able to, feed it out consistently without it biting, or it's not working. I imagine they tried at the test to, clutch plates or whatever it is, to fix that problem. But to me, it only makes it more impressive what Aleix has done, because to lose places and get them back in this class right now is super hard. That's why everyone says qualifying is so difficult, difficult, but so important. And for him to get bad starts and still finish on the podium, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We've still got a bit...
Sorry, I should add, and makes it more dangerous for when he does fix the problem,
Well, we think, it's not been confirmed, has it? But I think that perhaps they were working on that in the test, but not confirmed yet. So
I believe so, yeah.
We'll move on. Anyway, we've got a little bit longer to talk about Jerez before we move on to this weekend. We've got to talk about Marc Marquez. I think he definitely exceeded his own expectations. We saw another, we've not seen one for a really long time, but a really impressive Marc Marquez's save. He said actually not so impressive because it was on his left side. Ask me again when I'm on my right.
I think it was beautiful.
So did I.
Not, front save, but rear coming around, but also how little time he lost. Just got back on it and kept it going instead of having a bit of a wobble and losing places. It was super impressive.
I wonder if we'll see it here.
Like he said, Morum, he'll be back when he can do that on the right-hand side, strength-wise. I think it was sad to see Marc not be able to fight right at the front. I mean, he fought more than anyone else out there, meaning overtakes, but I think the machine is not at the point where Marc can fight at the front, obviously, because I think he will otherwise. So can Honda sort it out before the end of this year? So he can. I know he will at some tracks, the left-hand ones, but what about the rest? I really don't know if they will fix it. And I know they've been throwing things at it at the last test, trying geometry stuff on that. Then Misano, we're going to see that again. Hopefully they come with more bits. But unless they sort it out, it's going to be some rescue races like that. Even Marc said they're not ready to fight for the championship if they, at the speed they are at the moment.
That's the golden question. One more rider to touch on before we do move on, because I think it is important to shout out Marco Bezzecchi. He matched his best finish in the MotoGP class last time out in Jerez, but he was actually consistent across all of the sessions. And I just wanted to get maybe a little bit of insight you can shed a little bit of light on. What would you say that Marco has got to grips with, perhaps over some of the other rookies that we've got in the field?
Well, he's done a really good job, obviously, because he's usually fighting for the first rookie position, you know. He lost out to Remy Portimao, then did an amazing job at Jerez, like super impressive. Looking up and down the pit lane, the Ducati works at a lot of different positions, meaning bike setup-wise, because different riders use different setups on it. It's not everyone's the same. I think Marco's found something that works for him, you know, that he's comfy on, obviously. And but the super impressive thing is he's not firing it down the road very often, you know, for a rookie to ride at that level. Super easy to fall off. But just backing up a little bit as well, I think these first 2 years on the bike is super important, you know. First year is learning, you're going to be up and down. Second year, you start putting it together, and third year is where you really see it, you know, put it all together.
And a great example of that, as you rightly pointed out to me just before we came on air, was Fabio Quartararo. What did he do? It was the 3-year plan. He won the world title on his 3rd year in MotoGP.
I mean, that's who I was thinking about, was Jorge Martin.
Yeah.
And that is that, I mean, I never expected him to fight for the championship this year. I expected him to do better than last year, win more, or you know what I mean, to be more consistent, you know, less up and down. He's still having some ups and downs. The reason I say it is that needs 2 years is it's not fair to give a rider 1 year in this class, even when it was, in my day, was 500, or now with MotoGP, because in 1 year you can't make all the mistakes and learn from them, and you know, whether a mistake is a crash or a not figure out a bike setting, not figure out a circuit, you can't do that in 1 year and be polished. I mean, only the very special people have done it, you know.
Well, let's move on to talking about this weekend here in Le Mans. We've obviously got the 2 flying Frenchmen looking to find a bit of home glory, but Ducati have the bragging rights here with the last 2 victories. Can they make it a hat-trick? But the big thing we've touched on already, Simon, that could come into play this weekend is the unpredictable weather we are very used to seeing here in Le Mans. Those flag-to-flag type scenarios, we had our first flag-to-flag here last year in actually quite a few years. They throw so many different types of challenges at the riders. Just run us through, from their perspective, everything that kind of goes on.
That's well put. You're right, because there's so many things that can go wrong, but there's also so many opportunities, you know, to get, if you do everything right, choice-wise. I mean, the big one is to not fall off, you know, because that's so hard to do. I think Marc threw away a massive opportunity last year because he was pretty much, you know, going to be in the lead, and he knew it was a massive opportunity gone. Especially with the cold temperatures last year, super easy to do. The thing is, it's when to come in, you know, when to risk it for another lap. Then when you know, not fall off on the slicks when it's raining, then get on the wets and don't push too hard too early and fall off. It's a race of attrition as well, you know. And then at the end, the right tyre choice came down last year as well, you know, like the mediums were on the drying track were the right choice. Jack held on to it like this. Great job on the soft front. But all I'm saying is if you use this, it is a big opportunity, but it's very easy to throw it all away.
And there are riders that seem to get it right in like every single time. They just seem to really keep their cool in those type of situations, and then other riders that perhaps don't hit the mark. But one thing also we didn't touch on is the bike swaps. The bike swaps can be so hit and miss. You mentioned earlier when Fabio Quartararo actually came into the wrong box.
Yeah, for the second time on that weekend, you know, and I can't talk. That'd be the sort of thing I'd do wrong, you know, do everything okay on track, come in and pull it to the wrong box, because it's chaos, you know, isn't there? There's so many bikes. He ended up pulling up by his teammate's bike, which is the same colours. Yeah, it's chaos. The thing that I would like to throw to otherwise is the machines that suit this circuit. The reason I think Ducati have had such a good run here in the past is it's a stop-go circuit, and you're coming onto the front straight in first or second gear, big old drag there. It's good for the engine. Then you do that one other time on this circuit, second gear and a big drags, and then there's braking stability. Grip when it's wet. They're a little bit well known for good mechanical grip, the Ducati. So I think this layout does slightly favour their machine. But when it rains, remember the Suzuki boys were really good in the wet and made mistakes. There'll be a few more in there.
There are also a couple of riders you've got to imagine that really need a good result this weekend. We've touched on Jorge Martin, 3 unfortunately DNF so far this season. Didn't actually, well, he had a crash in the last race, remounted, was given a long lap penalty and finished last. He desperately needs a good result, but like you were saying earlier, you just feel like it's still his time to make some mistakes.
Well, Bastianini and Martin are both fantastic riders. Everyone knows that, and I think that it's only fair to let them have last year and this year to make all the mistakes, sort it out. We know they're fast, and next year is my bet on they'll be title contenders.
And the other more team and manufacturer I want to touch on, KTM. It's just really not been the start to the season that we were all expecting to, having heard all of the kind of positive comments about how they'd approached this year, being more methodical with the changes and not going too left field, not going too right field. Miguel Oliveira with that second win in Indonesia, but it just doesn't all seem to be knitting together.
Like I always say, I don't think they're far away, because it only takes a small problem to make them back where they are, and so only a small thing. The problem is finding what that problem is and sorting it out is the difficult thing. And I always say that the machines that have been around here longer and more refined over time have less of those problems, or they've shrunk them, you know. And I think KTM is still working on that. That's where, and sometimes that problem won't hold them back, meaning some circuits, you know, won't show it. This one should suit them better. I really do, because of the stop-start. They're good on the brakes if they've got the right front tyre and it's not too cold to use the hard front tyre. The thing is, something's not quite right. I'd like to throw one last thing in, because the only one that can really make it work consistently is Brad, you know, not right at the front, and I think Brad's quite famous for forcing it to, be able to, you know, where most riders need the things to feel right, and we know how good his teammate is, Oliveira, when things are right. So I hope KTM can figure it out.
And just finishing off on the KTM theme, good news for Tech 3, Hervé Poncharal, home race for them this weekend, and it looks like Ralph Fernandez will be back in their box this weekend.
And I think I spotted on the photos from the test, I wasn't at the test at Jerez, that the Tech 3 guys have got the carbon swing arms, the latest, so they've probably got parts filtering down to them first time this weekend.
Good shout. Right, Simon, I think it's about time that we hand over to Matt Burt with our pre-event press conference. It's getting very warm here, which means the press conference room has completely filled up. So from myself and Simon Crafar, it's goodbye for now. We'll talk to you later in the weekend.